It began with what looked like a simple punishment, a fine, $2,000 spread across 2 moments the league thought they could bury. A TikTok here, a podcast comment there. But what the WNBA didn't realize was that every time they slapped Sophie Cunningham with discipline, they weren't silencing her, they were fueling her rise. Instead of fear, she responded with fire. Instead of backing down, she doubled down. The result? A chain reaction that turned small penalties into massive spotlight. This wasn't control, this was ignition, and the league had lit the fuse themselves. Think about the math for just one moment. The WNBA believed that $2,000 would teach a lesson. But what lesson was really taught? From those fines, Sophie Cunningham gained 1.4 million new followers across her platforms. That's not just growth. That's a tidal wave of influence, rolling in faster than the league ever anticipated. For every dollar the league thought they were stripping from her pocket, Sophie was creating exponential returns. Their punishment wasn't punishment at all. It was investment. But the investor wasn't the league. It was Sophie herself, reaping the rewards of their mistake. Let's put it into perspective. A typical marketing campaign might cost between $1 and $3 for every single follower gained. Sophie's situation flipped that formula upside down. For her, the cost was just 6 cents per follower. 6 cents. That's over 3,000 times more effective than industry standards. Imagine sitting at league headquarters, believing you're tightening control, only to find you just sponsored the most successful viral campaign in women's basketball history. The irony is staggering. The league thought they were buying silence. What they purchased instead was Sophie's megaphone, louder than ever, echoing across the internet. And this megaphone wasn't accidental. The timing of Sophie's comments, the placement of her criticisms, the way she positioned herself, these weren't clumsy mistakes. They were chess moves. Her podcast, Show Me Something, launched at the exact moment she made those comments that brought a fine crashing down. That wasn't coincidence. That was strategy. She used the league's punishment as a launch pad for her independent empire. Millions of impressions, a new media identity, and freedom from the cage of league-sanctioned narratives. Sophie wasn't just reacting to the WNBA. She was rewriting the rulebook in real time. The empire she's building doesn't just live inside the WNBA's walls. It stretches far beyond. Her podcast is co-hosted with Wes Wilson from Bravo's Summer House, distributed by iHeart and The Volume. That means Sophie's voice isn't just bouncing around basketball fans. It's crossing into reality TV audiences, entertainment circles, and broader cultural pipelines. That's dangerous for league executives because it creates something they can't control, crossover influence. She's not just a role player anymore. She's an independent media figure, plugging herself into industries that thrive on authenticity and controversy. That makes her a star in spaces the league can't reach. The impact of this crossover is already visible in dollars and sales. Sophie Cunningham's jersey completely sold out by July, her personal merchandise gone in a flash. Pre-viral fame, her sponsored post might bring in $10,000. Now, they're estimated to be worth $20,000 per post and climbing. That's not punishment. That's a promotion. She went from league role player to a business powerhouse almost overnight. And here's the kicker. Reports claim Lakers owner Jeannie Buss has already reached out, exploring potential collaborations. Sophie isn't just building momentum. She's positioning herself at the center of a new entertainment wave. But the power isn't just about business. It's also about her role on the court. And here, the story takes a sharp turn. Sophie Cunningham has aligned herself directly with Caitlin Clark, not just as a teammate, but as an enforcer. Industry insiders whisper that Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White brought Sophie in for one reason, to protect the league's most valuable star. Clark herself reportedly thanked her after their first major altercation, saying, "Finally, in the locker room." That's more than respect, that's strategy. Cunningham isn't just another player. She's a shield around the WNBA's brightest light. And here's where it becomes truly fascinating. Sophie Cunningham isn't just riding Caitlin Clark's popularity, she's multiplying it. Analysts call it the engagement multiplier effect. Attach your brand to Clark, and numbers triple. But Sophie's following is now rivaling Clark's impact directly. Her TikTok sits at 1.7 million. Her Instagram boasts 1.1 million. Combined, she has engagement that outpaces entire WNBA franchises. Think about that. One player, not even considered a superstar in traditional metrics, generating more attention, more conversation, and more cultural relevance than full organizations. The WNBA doesn't own Sophie's audience. Sophie owns Sophie's audience, and that's dangerous. When Sophie speaks, she doesn't present herself as a rebel screaming into the void. She frames herself as a voice of every player who feels the same but doesn't dare speak aloud. If you ask our league, they feel the same exact way, she declared. That's not rebellion. That's union organizing on social media. At a moment when 80% of WNBA players are set to become free agents in 2025 and the league's first CBA proposal was rejected, Sophie is essentially building a rallying cry. Every fine strengthens her point. The league silences rather than fixes. That resonates across locker rooms. The officiating controversy only magnifies this dynamic. Sophie isn't the lone wolf howling about referees. Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White said Aaliyah Boston is the most poorly officiated player in the league. Angel Reese has spoken out about officiating needing reform. Minnesota coach Cheryl Reeve claimed the 2024 finals were stolen. Even Commissioner Kathy Engelbert admitted consistency is a concern. The difference? None of them face fines the way Sophie does, because none of them have her platform. By targeting her, the league accidentally validated her claim. That punishment is less about fixing problems and more about controlling narratives. What separates Sophie's criticism is the depth of her analysis. She doesn't just cry foul about miscalls. She diagnoses the system. Refs are too emotionally invested, she argued, noting that both male and female officials let personal emotion cloud judgment. That's not whining. That's sharp critique of officiating psychology. It's uncomfortable for the league because it's harder to dismiss. This isn't anger in the moment. This is thoughtful, reasoned dissection of systemic flaws. That makes Sophie more dangerous because she isn't speaking as a frustrated player. She's speaking as a reformer with the courage to challenge the institution itself. And now comes the blueprint, the part that has other players paying close attention. Sophie has cracked a viral code. Controversial statement leads to league fine. Fine leads to viral social media post. Viral post leads to follower surge. Follower surge leads to brand deals and higher value. Then the cycle repeats. Each time multiply her influence. This formula doesn't just work for Sophie. It could work for anyone willing to speak boldly. Imagine half the league following that playbook. Suddenly, the WNBA's biggest weakness, its reliance on controlling narratives, becomes every player's greatest weapon for independence and growth. The online conversations prove just how effective this has become. On Reddit, posts about her fines don't draw pity. They spark celebration. Fans see the fines as badges of honor, proof that Sophie is unafraid to say what others only whisper. Engagement metrics confirm this duality. She's both controversial and beloved, sparking divided opinions that drive comments, debates, and shares. But here's the key. Controversy is currency online. Every polarizing moment feeds her algorithm. Fans rally, critics argue, but both groups fuel her momentum. The WNBA tried to mark her with shame, but Sophie transformed those marks into symbols of pride. Traditional sports media has also taken notice, and that changes everything. Outlets like ESPN and Yahoo Sports amplify her every statement. NBA stars like LeBron James have chimed in, criticizing officiating and validating Sophie's concerns. That crossover attention drags the WNBA's dirty laundry into mainstream light, where the league loses control of the narrative. They can't silence ESPN. They can't silence LeBron. The result? Sophie Cunningham shifts from social media rebel to recognized voice for systemic reform in professional women's basketball. That's not just a player going viral. That's a player becoming the face of an entirely new movement. The timing couldn't be more critical. Collective bargaining negotiations loom over the WNBA like a storm cloud. Players are rejecting the league's offers, demanding percentage-based revenue sharing from a media rights deal worth between $2 and $3 billion. Every clip, every viral post, every fine Sophie endures feeds into that negotiation. She's living proof that players can generate independent value, rivaling entire franchises. The WNBA wanted to prove control. Instead, they proved weakness. In a year where every dollar and every narrative matters, Sophie Cunningham has transformed into a bargaining chip bigger than the league ever anticipated. The most chilling part for WNBA executives is this. Sophie has built a completely independent influence network. She doesn't need league marketing. She doesn't need controlled media interviews. She has direct access to fans through TikTok, Instagram, podcasts, and collaborations outside basketball. She doesn't just create content. She creates ecosystems of engagement that ripple far beyond game day. Entertainment figures from reality TV to sports media attach themselves to her authenticity. She doesn't ask for approval. She doesn't wait for permission. She simply speaks, and the world listens. That's not a player the league can regulate. That's a disruptor. And make no mistake, disruption is what terrifies league officials most. Because what happens when Sophie isn't the only one? What happens when 10 players, then 20, adopt her formula? Suddenly, the WNBA isn't managing individual athletes. It's managing a rebellion powered by social media. Every fine would fuel not fear, but fire. Every attempt at silence would amplify voices louder. The disciplinary system becomes obsolete. The balance of power tips. The WNBA isn't just fighting Sophie Cunningham. They're fighting the future of athlete empowerment, a future where players build empires parallel to the league, empires the league cannot control. What Sophie has done is prove a radical truth. League authority only exists if players agree to respect it. With massive independent platforms, respect becomes optional. And once respect is optional, fines lose power, punishments lose bite, and the league's ability to discipline collapses. The executives wanted to maintain control, but in punishing Sophie, they revealed their powerlessness. Each viral moment exposes the fragility of their grip. Sophie Cunningham has declared war on the status quo, and she's winning. The WNBA can't silence her. They can only fuel her. And the more they fuel her, the stronger she becomes. The revolution is already unfolding before our eyes. Players are no longer waiting for league approval to speak. They're no longer fearful of consequences. Instead, they see the consequences as opportunity. Sophie Cunningham has shown them that punishment can equal profit, that controversy can equal career advancement. The league thought they could scare players into silence, but silence doesn't trend. Authenticity does. And now, the most authentic voice in the WNBA has built a roadmap others are ready to follow. This isn't speculation. This is the birth of a movement. And once it starts, it cannot be stopped. The WNBA wanted control. They ended up funding rebellion. Sophie Cunningham didn't crumble under the weight of their fines. She thrived. She didn't shrink back. She expanded. In trying to make her an example, they created a leader. Her empire now stands as proof that individual players can rival franchises, that independent media can rival official narratives, and that the power of voice outweighs the power of fines. Sophie Cunningham isn't just playing basketball anymore. She's playing chess, and the league is scrambling to catch up. But every move they make strengthens her hand. She's rewritten the game entirely. Now the question becomes, who's next? Which player will adopt Sophie's model of turning punishment into profit, controversy into community, criticism into career power? Because make no mistake, others are watching, others are learning, and others are preparing to step into storm. Sophie Cunningham may have been the spark, but sparks ignite fires. The WNBA is on the edge of a new era, one where players command voices larger than the league itself. It's no longer about who scores the most points. It's about who controls the story. And Sophie Cunningham controls the story right now.